software in construction was starting to take root, there were so many companies entering the market that didn't seem to have a solid grasp of the industry at which they were entering. I toured the recent NECA trade show and spoke with many of the software tech companies, and I could see a marked improvement in their understanding of the market and how their products can actually solve an electrical contractor or integrator's greatest challenges. I believe one of the reasons that they're doing a better job at this is that they're actually getting the inputs of the experts or the contractors themselves. I was lucky enough to find one of those experts at that trade show and took a few minutes with him, Nate Tockerman, Structshare's Director of Partnerships. He sat down with me during the trade show to talk a little bit and give me both the contractor and the software company's perspectives on construction software. Before Structshare, Nate spent 12 years at an ENR top 5 specialty contractor as a project manager, and more recently at Procore, where he helped them pre to post IPO to expand the specialty contractor product offering and go to market. He is a sought-after speaker and class leader on topics ranging from project management, company culture, to business trends and the evolving construction technology landscape. He graduated from Chico State and has a lifelong passion for the built environment and advancing the building trades. I'm your host, Todd Reed, and welcome to Keeping the Lights On. Let's get into the show. We like to start each episode with the meals that bring us together. So Nate, if I were to visit you, where might you take me and why would you choose this?
Well, I live in Monterey, California. It's a tourist destination, so the options are robust. I think it depends. I'd probably, for the local flavor, I'd take you to a place called the Fish House on Del Monte. It's wood grilled, it's fish. It's a no frills kind of place. Oyster bar, family style, really give you like the local catch. But if you wanted the whole experience, I'd take you to Mission Ranch, Clint Eastwood's place where he writes his movies, and the view of the bay. It's just an insane landscape and view where the food just isn't as good. It's good, but it's not,
Yeah.
But there's a lot.
More
I
atmosphere.
could go down a list of another dozen or two for you. But.
Well, yeah, I mean, that area of California, tons of places. I'm sure we could spend the whole show talking about restaurants and food. Well, what's your favorite thing to get at either one of those places?
I'm a fish guy.
So fish.
Deep sea fish. I would do everyone goes after the white flaky sea basses and stuff, but I do a cod. I do a true or a ling cod, just pan seared, easy. Best thing you can get, locally sourced.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, that'd be the place to get it. I'm in St. Louis, so deep water fish is probably not the best thing to get there. But okay, well, so restaurants have adapted their businesses with software. From handling orders, we all order online now because of the pandemic, and to menus, to food management. But we are in a little bit more of a technical, complex industry than restaurants in many regards. So electrical contractors have been integrating software into their businesses for a while now. But what I'm excited to talk to you about is that you come from both the construction tech side, where you are now on software and all that, but you were also at a contractor at one point in your career. And so I'm interested to talk to you kind of about that, your views from both those points. So when you were a contractor, how did you view software, and how has that changed now that you're actually in the software world?
So if we go way back, I came out of college with a degree in construction management. So I was one of the I would call it like trained project managers to come into the industry as opposed to from the field. And so my skill set and contribution to the business was my knowledge of Microsoft, Word, Excel, the whole suite of documents there. The fact that I could run pivot tables in Excel meant I was technically savvy, right?
Yeah.
And we ran a lot of our processes through Excel. And so that meant I was kind of ramped from a technology standpoint. Now, as you get integrated to the business and you grow kind of what you do from estimating to managing databases, to the plan grids, and sort of the evolution of software solutions that were starting to come for contractors, it was still a little rough. Like learning Accubid and then even switching from Accubid to Accubid Enterprise when they came up with that was it was tough. And for the longest time, I didn't understand why the on-screen takeoff function was this different login, and I had to jump back and forth. It was like that didn't make sense to me. I didn't know that integrations and different solutions were a thing. But I thought, this doesn't make sense. Why did Accubid build it that way? It's just more difficult for me. And so that slowed things down. And now on the other side, now that I'm a technology provider and you start looking at de-siloing data and integrating solutions, whether it be the ERP compared to the PMI, or the project management solution, to these various point solutions like estimating or material procurement, Um, it's 20 years later, and we're still sort of inching along. I think that the difference in perspective is to see it from the contractor side of like what services me and how do I actually use it. Um, my perspective is it has to be intuitive and it has to actually solve a need and it has to be something that they'll adopt immediately because it provides real value to them.
I think when you were at that contractor, one of the things you looked for were how to use software or how to use technology. Was you were looking for choke points? Is that accurate? So can you maybe give an example of that and how you?
100%. So I'll take the estimating and change order process. So
Okay.
estimators use estimating software every day. I have to use that estimating solution operationally on a project to do my change orders. But change order management from a contract signing, submission of the pricing, tracking it from financials and projection standpoint, those are disparate processes. So the choke point was, all right, I got to generate the quote in my estimating software.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to communicate that cost price per contract within a timeline via email.
Mm-hmm.
Then I need to track the status of that and how it affects the projections of my project from a change standpoint, because changes in construction, we're proceeding with the change, we're incurring the cost, but we don't have a billing medium until we get an approved change order.
Right.
So those are all three separate, real critical tied workflows for one process, one drawing bulletin or one RFI that was issued. But the choke point becomes jumping in and out of each system. And where's the visibility of the people that are supporting me? My division manager, the executives trying to evaluate the health of that project. Where do they see it? What's their source of truth to say, did I protect our entitlements? Did I submit it in time? Is it being tracked down? Is it being billed for? What's the accounts payable and receivables? Then the aging. Those are all in different places. The choke points become the ability to verify that you're doing everything you need to, at the end of the day, protect those entitlements.
It seems like one of the challenges I hear from contractors, and really it's any business, not just contractors, is that they're overwhelmed by the choices. I mean, here at the NECA show where we are, I mean, how many tech solution software choices are out there right now, and it's only increasing. It seems like the show there's always more, which is great, but it also makes it a challenge. Like if I'm a contractor, I'm spending my time trying to build. I'm not necessarily a tech guru, so it's hard for me to know. They get a software, they try it, and it doesn't work, so it's cost them some money and time, which is fine to some degree, but it starts at some point, starts to wear down on the contractor, and they kind of give up maybe on trying to pursue this solution. So what are some of the other challenges that you hear from contractors and how would you counsel them to continue pursuing tech and software solutions?
I'll use an analogy that, if you went into an auto dealership today, and you were car shopping, and you went, what would really be cool is a car that flies. I'm looking for that. You have an awareness and knowledge that doesn't exist. And you could tell the car company, thinking that these are the people that are going to deliver that product to me someday. But you kind of know what they're going to tell you, right? That we want that too. We're working on it. We'll call you when it's ready. Fully integrated, single sign-on, everything all in one is the flying car. What I would advise and what people are finding is that there's a lot of disparate solutions that even if you only had one choice for every functionality, you still have to make sure that they talk to each other and that they're integrated because there isn't an all-in-one. And so the advice from the onset, aside from evaluating free solutions, and I can talk about that in a second, is just to start with who's building for scale. Table stakes in development to me is API, open API. Do these data silos, do these systems communicate with each other? And those are buzzwords that I don't think land. I think what you're really talking about is single entry of data. If I'm creating something in an estimate, does it flow over to the operations teams? Is the handoff meeting between project management and estimating smooth because the information, the drawings are stored in the same folders? It's not a paper folder handoff. So I would look to scale to say who are the solutions that are being built for a future case, which is business analytics. What we all call it in our side of the fence is digitalization, then digital transformation. Okay. Solutions right now aren't set up unilaterally to talk to each other for a digital transformation environment, but you should evaluate companies to say, first and foremost, is the functionality that I get today going to actually benefit my business? That's table stakes. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily true based on your system or process. But at the fundamental level, make sure that the people you are partnering with are actually going to be partners with you tomorrow, because the most expensive software that you buy is the one that you have to replace.
Yeah.
Now, let's claw that back and go to 1,000 feet, because that's kind of the 30,000 feet approach to evaluating solutions for your business. At the ground level, I would educate yourself on the logos that provide this current state today. And if you go to one of them and they're not telling you who the other 2 or 3 are, I'd question the consultative nature of that business and talk to them all, because they're all going to be in some level of development on that solution, because that's how agile development works, is we take this in stages.
Okay.
And I would truly take it as, use the vendor as your educator.
Okay.
Not as the person to get you a price. Figure out if it does everything that you need, takes care of the multiple departments that you're trying to service. You don't want to buy one software solution for each department of your business. You want to get something that connects those departments. And I think that's a good place to start. Most notably, though, it's less about the solution and the software, and it's more about your need, your pain. What is it that your business needs to up-level it, fix it, make it more profitable, win more work, whatever your criteria are, be crystal clear on what those are. And make sure that the solutions that you're talking to actually enable, support, or facilitate that function. Otherwise, it's a distraction.
Okay. So this might lead into this next question here a little bit. So I interviewed an expert in AI, a data scientist, been working in AI since, who knows, many years. And he shared that, I asked him kind of a similar question, but about AI. I said, well, what should they even start thinking about AI integration? And he said to get their data out of silos. He goes, because, you have all these different silos. He goes, to help AI work well, they should be able, you want that data to be able to be somewhat related so you can start to get better answers to your questions. So I guess I'm curious what your thoughts are on AI. Just it's a big question. But how will it play in the construction space moving forward? And what should contractors really think about AI, or how much should they be thinking about it?
This is a segment question. So if we go, for the listeners out there, if you're doing $200 million in revenue, you have a lot of data. Your systems are you're probably digitized already. And I think the amount of data that you're generating makes a case for business analytics, BI, Power BI. And then once you have all of that data, what do you do with it? AI is going to really help scrape and organize and give you insights. What I call it, information is data given context. And so AI is that sort of evaluative tool that can go over the top of all of that de-siloed data. Until you're at that stage, though, we go down segment for the companies that aren't, working with those open API companies to get that data shared or even digitized, if we're being honest. It's something that we're going to use to support you, but isn't going to be something you're aware of that's happening. I think the tech companies are very good at taking current best practices and making their product better or more efficient. I think what contractors are going to see from that today is an unrecognized or realized benefit that what I'm being provided by my vendor is enabled by a back-end AI for today's sake. Until we get across the chasm, the Jeffrey Moore concept, and until we get more and more contractors just digitized, just going from paper, Excel, email, to get to digital, the data actually exists in a format that we can share between systems. I think that's a bridge to cross at a future state, but know that the incentive to do that, to get yourself digital, means that you can really start to up-level a lot faster on the backside of that. And so what I would advise people to do is not get distracted and focus on the latest shiny thing that Wall Street is talking about.
Yeah.
But make sure that your business is being set up in a place to be able to get the benefit of it when the industry delivers it to you.
So let's make sure I'm hearing you. So all these things that you've talked about earlier on about, software integrations, we don't need the terminology of open APIs and all that, de-siloing that will potentially help you when AI becomes more of a player in the market, right? I mean, if things are communicating together, it'll only help.
If for those who are trying to put visual to the words that we're saying, think of it like a pyramid. Making your business digital is the foundational layer.
Okay, perfect. Yep.
Right? Dessert on the food pyramid is the best part of it, but it's the smallest part of what you should be consuming and worrying about and thinking about in your day from a healthy standpoint. AI, although has the ability to up-level and provide you a ton of insight, isn't functionally relevant if it doesn't have
all the layers,
ton of data to consume. Because let's be honest, bad data is too much data, right? I'm being inundated with ERP cost codes. I did work breakdown structures for my jobs that include area, system, floor. Like there's 350 cost codes to look at. That's not effective project management because you're distracted by too much information.
Gotcha.
AI would come in and say, well, of all of these cost codes, I think you should probably focus on the ones that are trending over because productivity plus overage reporting plus all these various inputs that affect the outcome of that scope are all aligning, and I want to focus your attention to that area.
So some of our listeners are people who actually purchase construction, building owners, municipalities, higher ed, all those GCs. And our contractor listeners are always trying to sell themselves to these constituents, right? That's what they're trying to sell to. How can a contractor's tech stack impact, or their tech stack help them get more business?
Table stakes for contractors. What do? Margin is an assessment of what? Risk. All we do as contractors is look at what's our risk on a project. We evaluate that based on the scope, our knowledge, and our history of have we administered this before? Have we worked with this contractor? Do we have a good relationship? Right. The weaker all of those data points are, the more we charge. Margin is an assessment of risk.
Mm-hmm.
Software, at the end of the day, is just a tool. It's your intellectual property at a contractor, which is how your cost of doing work and the processes that you use to do it, because we all install for the same means and methods. We install the same material for the most part. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot that differentiates except for the processes that we do, which affects our cost of work. So if you are using software to mitigate risk, to identify choke points, to make you a better and a more effective manager of the scope you've been assigned, whether it be the total project as a GC or the individual CSI spec sections as a sub, your demonstrated performance is the best business development tool that you have. The ways in which you can convince someone that you are better suited to perform because you have a better handle on managing the work you've been assigned is what you should be peddling in the interviews as a differentiator of why you are going to perform better on this job than someone that is just doing things the old-fashioned way. The visibility that your customer can get, that you can show that you are on it, that you have the lead times, that you've released the things, that you have awareness and visibility of everything in front of you, and it is all being taken care of. You're not reactionary to. And the relationships with your downstream vendors and supply chain management, all that kind of stuff is actively managed. That's what software does. It up-levels your ability to handle more with the same resource or less.
Okay. So what would be your last piece of advice how a contractor should start to get a grip on their tech stack?
Know what you have. Okay. Know why you have it. Who brought it in? Why did you do it? Most importantly, I don't think it's about like the logo, the tech stack, as much as your process to manage and implement and ensure smooth adoption of. I think what you're seeing in the industry is a lot of movement towards director of innovation. Some of these positions that are not, call us when you need to unlock your password, we'll manage the laptops, and then we'll also handle these software licensing things on the side.
Yeah.
Actual positions are starting to be created to make sure that when you bring on a new solution, there's a process to implement, manage, single point of contact at that solution for resourcing, but most importantly, point of contact internally so that you can accelerate the benefit that you're paying for that product and actually have it implemented on your projects. I don't think it's successful to expect that your foreman is going to call the software company chatbot for the answer.
Right.
You really want an implementation strategy in your business around your tech stack, independent of what the actual tech stack is.
Okay.
Because anytime you add a new solution, you're going to have the same adoption and change management hurdles to overcome. Regardless of what you buy, it's going to predicate, the benefit you get is going to be predicated on your ability to implement it smoothly and quickly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it starts to get a little bit complicated in that it's, like you said, change management, culture. It's not just, hey, you're Nate, here's a new piece of software, use it, and you're like, oh, great, I don't know what to do. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yep, go ahead.
You brought up culture. I've done whole talks on it. I think that some of the most important part of implementation of anything is not a management bought this and is now requiring you to do it as a function of your paycheck. It's an education on the benefit that it offers the individual and why it's good for them. And probably good to do is to bring them in and ask them before you buy the solution so that they have buy-in, so that you don't bet on it happening. You don't buy it because you think it's cool and you did your evaluation only to find out that your people don't agree or think that that's actually the right thing to do because they have a buddy using something else or whatever. So I would survey your people and make sure that the changes that you're doing for them are going to be used by them, because at the end of the day, if you are enabling your people to do their best work, if you're getting their buy-in and you're making them happy and productive, they're going to double down. They're going to use it. They're going to recommend new stuff. They're going to bring the solution to you. The best way, I think, to adopt software in a construction company is to have it be presented to leadership by the user, not leadership sourcing it and telling the end user to use it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Nate, I always like to close the conversations by refocusing on the why of what we do. So what motivates you to do this day in and day out? What keeps you excited and passionate about what you do?
Um, as a short answer, I used to be them and it was miserable.
Okay.
I expended a lot of energy to get data manageable for that period. Long answer. I worked on a lot of claim jobs because I could export data from my ERP. I could create the measured mile and the efficiency comparisons, and I could tell a story of what happened on a project as well as what the impact of those decisions or lack of decisions were through weekly update letters. But it's not enough to say something and tell a story. You need data and information to validate what is subjective by an owner being asked to pay for that. I can't tell you how many nights and 60-hour weeks it is to be able to just compile that so that you can tell that story in a year when you're working with a mediator or trying to avoid having to talk to a mediator by saying we should settle for just something over 50 cents on the dollar without paying lawyers. That became big risk management at capital projects of the $90 to $250 million size for an electrical contract. I don't ever want to do that. I stopped because I don't want to do that anymore, and I don't want to have people have to go through that. I want to be able to click into a Procore and have everything about the change management process documented, what the initiating document was, what my buy price was, what the PO was written at what date. Did I, all of the compelling information that you need to protect your entitlements or just to prevent the fact that they even come up because you've mitigated risk through effective management is what's possible today. Those solutions exist. It's just a matter of the industry, and the software industry is what I'm describing, actually showing up for them. And so what better way to do that than to bring subject matter expertise and domain knowledge to the developer so that we can short cycle the benefit to the contractor.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for being here. It's been great having you on the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
That is my conversation with Nate Tockerman, Director of Partnerships, Structshare. You can connect with Nate and what he is working on by going to the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, you can really help us out by subscribing and leaving a 5-star rating in your favorite podcast player. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Keeping the Lights On. We'll see you next time.